today I'm going to make a little sweet potato chili con carne. So, but to get that kind of meatiness, I don't want to use lean red meats or red meats at all. So I'm going to use aubergine. And the first thing I'm going to do with the aubergine is I'm going to just pair that up with a few sweet potatoes, which I'm going to down. Just bake those in the air fryer. Very easy way of doing it, saves you throwing on the big oven. So, aubergine. When you're buying your aubergines, always make sure they're a little bit heavy to the touch. I'm just going to chop that up. And it's a good thing to do this because I want to get a kind of a nice meaty texture in the aubergine. So I'm just going to put it into a nice small dice. And then what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of salt over that. And I'm going to put the salt over the courgette as well. And just wait for about 30 minutes. Not tons of salt either. No need to use tons and tons. So there's my aubergine, just roughly diced up. Another thing is I've prepared all my other vegetables, but I left the aubergine to last because I don't want it to go dark. It tends to oxidize quite quickly. Now, there's some people argue with arthritis to avoid things like aubergines, potatoes, and tomatoes even, and because they're members of the nightshade families. And for these vegetables, they may well cause a bit of a reaction with some people with arthritis. For me, and what I'm doing is cooking in many ways for myself, and you have to realize that you have to figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. But the way I look at it is with aubergines, they have absolutely no effect on my arthritis. They may well have an effect on somebody else's. But I think the benefits, the vitamins, the minerals, the fibre, what these bring to a dish far outweighs any potential negatives to them. So onto that, I'm just going to put a little sprinkling on my courgettes and my aubergines. Small little sprinkling of salt, and then and that's going to just, in about 30 minutes to 45 minutes, it'll just draw out a little bit of the moisture from these. Then I'm just going to rinse them off, and you'll get a much nicer texture. Excuse me. You'll get this lovely kind of meaty almost texture, and that's going to kind of give that illusion of a meat in this dish. Then what I'm going to use is for my peas, or my beans for the chili. You could just as easily use a couple of tins of, 1 or 2 tins of pre-canned mixed beans. I prefer the texture from the dried ones. What I've done is I've soaked them overnight. I've then cooked them in lightly salted water until they're tender, strained them off, and then just cooled them down. Or even you could hold them warm. And what I've used is a black bean and a borlotti bean. But again, pretty much all the dry beans are the same. So, the next thing I'm going to do is, excuse me. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just put in my air fryer. I'm just going to take 3 small medium sweet potatoes, pop them in, and let them bake away like that. I think it's one of those great little inventions, the air fryers. It saves you the trouble of actually turning on a big oven. You can just open up a whole range of things there, and very, very convenient piece of equipment. So to make this little dish, I'm going to put about a teaspoonful of coconut oil into a nice heavy based casserole, dish, but whatever pan you have conveniently is the main thing. Into that, I'm just going to add my onions. And just let them get a little bit of a start on the cookery. Just going to pop the lid on that. Just let them get started. Next up, what I'm going to do is add my aubergines and courgettes. Now, if you remember, I had soaked those in a little bit of salt and allowed the salt to draw out some of the moisture. Then I washed them off quite well with fresh water and then dried them off. Again, just allow them to dry off in a strainer, get them as dry as I could, even pat them down with a cloth, just to get that salt back off them again. And I'm going to allow those cook with the onions until they kind of start to brown up and get a bit of colour into them. At this point as well, I'm going to add in my celeriac. Now you could use, if you can't get celeriac, which is the kind of the ground version, or the version of the celeriac, the bulbous version. But just normal celery will do just fine as well. So I'm just going to let those cook away a bit. If you find your pan is going a little bit dry, just add a little bit of water and just let them all cook down and start to colour up themselves. As I had said, if you find it's a little bit dry, just to get the steam and just kind of expedite things, a couple of tablespoons of water will work a treat in that. As those are cooking down, I'm also just going to add in a couple of bay leaves. I use some fresh bay leaves and just a whole sprig of the rosemary, just to allow a little bit of flavour get into this. No need for salt, because don't forget those courgettes and aubergines will be carrying a bit of salt from when they were when you're taking the moisture out of them with the salt. So just let those all cook away there and kind of render down nicely, just to develop as much flavour as you can. So when the vegetables all kind of soften up and render down a little bit, what I'm going to do is remove the lid and allow those to start to fry a little bit without cover on it, because I do want to get more of a nice kind of a chili kind of flavour onto this. I want to get that nice, interesting kind of flavours for one of it. And you know, the sweating alone won't achieve that. So into that next, at this stage, I have my chilli, green chilli, full one. You could use less if you like, but 4 cloves of garlic. I have a little bit of, and I'm going to just pop those in there now. And I also have about a teaspoon of cumin, ground cumin, and a spice mix. If you can get it, it's worth seeking out rationalt, which is, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. It's but in the menu or in the written description, you'll have the correct spelling and everything. So you can seek this out. It's an Arabic spice mix, and it's great with these kind of dishes. It just gives lovely complexity off your dish. Just going to let those kind of cook and infuse those nice little few spices and that little bit of chili, and allow this to kind of cook up and develop. Just keeping an eye on it as it's cooking away, just stirring fairly continuously. And you'll see that because we salted the aubergines and the courgettes, they're going to hold back and they're going to kind of take on a lovely, more firm kind of texture. I have allowed that to cook now for a few more minutes. Next up, I'm going to add my red pepper. Also going to add in my cherry tomatoes. The reason I'm just using some of the whole cherry tomatoes is to just bring a little bit of more texture and interest to the dish as a whole. Also into this, I have a little selection of herbs. I've used some thyme here mainly, some oregano, and I'm just going to, it's mainly thyme I'm using here. It'll just bring that more kind of lovely earthy kind of flavour into this. So I'm just going to let those all cook. I'm just going to pop the lid on that and let that kind of sweat and cook for about another 4 or 5 minutes. Do keep an eye. So as this is just cooking down a little bit more, I'm just going to add about a tablespoon of chili paste, or excuse me, of tomato paste into this. And then I'm going to add standard 400 gram tin of tomatoes. I'll just allow that to cook and kind of all infusing together, letting those flavours. Just kind of nice, slow kind of cookery here. No need to be any way complicated with it. Also into this, at this stage, I'm going to add about a half cup of water. Just to give a nice saucy kind of finish. And now I'm just going to add about a half tin of lentils. And they're the tinned ones. You could have some nice cooked ones inside. I just find that they'll bring a nice little texture onto this. And I'm going to add my black beans and my borlotti beans, which I had cooked. Now you could just as easily use a couple of tinned beans here, and then just go to let those all infuse and cook and come in together. Now as that's cooking, if you find that it's a little bit on the dry side, just add a little drop of water and use adding about 1/3 of a cup. You'll just have to judge this one up yourself a little bit. If you're using the tinned beans, you might find that you'll need a lot less water. But again, the beans are already cooked. It's only just allowing all the vegetables now to cook off and just kind of infuse and let the flavors all develop with this. So just a nice kind of a slowish cook there, and you have your nice chili start to develop then. So I haven't allowed that to simmer away. I left the lid on it myself, but again, it's not too important, but I just find it just cooks a little bit more evenly. Just again, keep an eye on it, and when you're stirring it, make sure you're stirring right from the bottom. And when all your vegetables are nice and tender and you can start feeling the old flavor kind of developing through, I had just checked this seasoning there. Just going to add a pinch of salt in here, just to finish it. A little bit more black pepper, just because I like black pepper. Again, this seasoning tends to be down to personal taste. And then I'm going to use a little bit of fresh basil just to finish this at the very, very last minute. And that's pretty much all we need for our chili. And this will last for a few days in the fridge. Again, extremely nutritious, high protein, but very, very low in calories. It's all vegetables, beans. So a really good one and a great filler-upper as well. You can be eating quite a bit of this without being feeling too guilty. So I'm just going to put that aside there and just show you how I just intend to serve this. Just going to get my little wee plate. And there the sweet potato, one of the ones that I had in the air fryer. So all I need to do is just cut my sweet potato in half, or even take a couple of nice little cuts on it. The skin is again packed with nutrients in the sweet potato. Then I'm going to just open that out a little bit. And then it's a simple case of just neatly spooning on your chili. Giving us a nice, rich vegetable, aubergine, just a nice, simple little dish that is going to pack a very, very high nutritional punch. Is very, very satisfying. And then just as a little bit of garnish at the end, just put a little bit of garlic on top. You can put a little drizzle of olive oil on this if you wished. And there's our little vegetable chili with sweet potato.